Hi guys, in this episode of Plummy's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts to the first episode. Hi guys, in this episode of Plummy's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts to the first ever episode of the new Walking Dead spin-off, Tales of the Walking Dead. And before I say anything about the show and the episode, I want to preface it all by saying this. Our perspectives affect how we view things, how we feel about things as we experience them. The starting point from which you started off affects... Hi guys, in this episode of Plummy's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the first episode of the new Walking Dead spin-off, Tales of the Walking Dead. But before we get into any of the things that I have to say about this episode, I want to preface it all by saying this. Perspective matters. Expectations matters. Where you start from in your expectations and your perspective affects how you get to interpret something. So I'm not saying that my opinion on this is the ultimate one, and I am the arbiter of what is good and what is bad. What I am saying though is from my perspective and my expectations, which honestly are pretty fair things to expect, this was not good. Although there are things that I do want to praise a little bit because I feel like people have unfairly hated, or at least over-hated compared to what I think it would deserve in terms of its hate. But yeah, this was kind of a letdown. And I'll tell you why. But first off, I guess let's start from straight up from the most superficial parts of this, which would be, I guess, the opening sequence to this show. Or I guess no, before we get into that, which I have a couple of things to say about, let's get into the title of this episode. And in general, the episodes of this show as a whole. You really couldn't have come up with some original titles for this episode? You just named them by the characters' names? Like, why? Why? It's not like it's fucking hard. The common theme in this episode, for example, is loneliness. Why couldn't you just have called the episode Alone? And yes, going forward, if they continue using just the character names for the episode titles, I am gonna be coming up with my own names for those episodes. And by the way, let me write it down so I don't forget it. I'm just gonna call it Alone, because I think that's a pretty decent title for the first episode, considering, like, again, that's the theme of it, loneliness. That's what drives pretty much everything in this episode. And I want to preface my opinions on this again by the fact that in retrospect I probably not hate it as much, because some of the feelings that I'm feeling about this I felt when I watched Fear the Walking Dead for the first time, or even World Beyond for the first time. But the difference with those is that unlike those, the characters that we saw in this episode will not get to grow on me in the long term. Because this is the one and only time we're seeing them, most likely. And considering the quality of the episode, definitely. But yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, the title. I wish they used something more original for the titles instead of just the names, but forget about it. It's a superficial thing at best. But let's get into the next superficial thing about this. The opening theme. I like that they kind of copied the style for the opening from Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 and 7. Because if you guys have seen my reviews to episodes of Fear the Walking Dead in Season 6 and 7, which you should, honestly, you know how much I love the anthology format that Fear has been doing for those two seasons. I love it. And honestly, that's why, biggest reason why I'm so disappointed with Tales of the Walking Dead. Because the actual anthology series is such a fucking letdown. And yes, it's just the first episode. I'm not gonna judge the whole show as a whole based on this first episode. But goddamn, it's just the things that are wrong with this episode makes me think that they do not understand how they should have done these episodes. because before getting to watch the episode, I read, I think, a little bit of a snippet of a review of the episodes on Twitter, I think by Kirsten Acuna or something like that. And she mentioned how, while the episodes are neither outrageously bad or amazingly good, the one common thing between all of the episodes that she has seen, which is like the first 4 episodes, is that all of the episodes feel like the pilots of a spin-off. Which, in my opinion, is the wrong way to handle an anthology. And I know that in all of my reviews of the Walking Dead universe, when I've talked about Tales of the Walking Dead, I've said that Tales of the Walking Dead is a smart idea, because if there's a very popular character, or a story, or a concept that they want to do more of, they could easily spin off said location, character, story, plot point into their own spin-off. But that doesn't mean that the episodes that you do in the anthology series should feel like the pilots. Because at the end of the day, however good or however bad this episode was, I kind of want to see more of the characters, you know? By the end of it, I was like, okay, not the best episode, but next one with them is gonna be good. But there isn't gonna be another one. It's kind of like how, if I had to judge World Beyond and its characters just by the first episode, yeah, I fucking hated it. I did. But as time went on, the characters grew on me, they developed, and the show developed. And it was really good in Season 2. I genuinely enjoyed Season 2, honestly. But we're not gonna get to have that kind of development with the characters, because this is an anthology. This is the only time most likely we're gonna get to see these characters, because it's not like the episode was like amazingly good, so we would get to see Terry Crews again. I mean, it's Terry Crews, we probably will, but yeah. This is just the wrong way to start off conceptualizing Tales of the Walking Dead. The right way, in my opinion, would have been to kind of handle these things as mini movies. Because it's 45 minutes. It's not the length of even like a short movie, which would be like 60 minutes. Even though I thought they said that they were going to be like 60-minute long episodes, but I don't know. They should have handled it like that. They should have, like, they already take it on its own. Like, they go out of their way to have no connection to anything else in the Walking Dead universe. So why don't you do it as a movie at that point? I just don't get it. Like, Fear the Walking Dead has a better handling on this concept than Tales. I said it before and I'll say it again. Because, like, Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 especially, I feel like, the first half really nailed that. Like, the first episode of Season 6, I don't want to spoil anything about it, so I'm not going to talk about anything in particular, but it felt like a movie featuring the main character. It felt like a movie. That's how fucking good it was. It was only focusing on that character and a new character and developing them, and it was so fucking good. It was kind of like a, not necessarily a character study, but it was like a very character development focused episode that was epic, and it was awesome, and everybody fucking loved it. It's one of the best episodes of Fear the Walking Dead and the Walking Dead universe as a whole, honestly. And that's why that kind of anthology style continued for the rest of Season 6 and 7, and will be a thing for 8 as well. And that's kind of what I was worried about as I was watching Fear the Walking Dead, and we learned about Tales of the Walking Dead. I'm not sure where in the timeline that fits in terms of when Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 aired and when we learned about Tales, but Fear the Walking Dead just kind of got it right off the bat, with like the title cards being kind of emblematic of the characters featured in the episode, which is what Tales also is doing, which I'm glad about. They're doing kind of a similar title cards. But I was worried that Fear the Walking Dead was going to be doing it better, and that Tales which was supposed to be the show, which was supposed to be focusing on this kind of style of storytelling, was gonna be shit, because it's very unlikely to catch a lightning in a bottle twice. And I feel like Fear the Walking Dead was the case of season 6 and 7 being like really good anthology style was a lightning in a bottle in my eyes. And it turns out that I was right. Because like they couldn't even fucking get the theme song right. I get what they're doing with the theme that they're going for. And when you get it from that point of view, which I'm going to talk about in a second, it kind of makes sense why the episode is the way it is. But it's the wrong way. It's just the wrong way. And like with the theme song, the way it sounds, you would expect that it probably would be kind of like a more horror vibe. Because I assume that's what we want. We want horror and scariness and ruthlessness and brutality. Even from something from Tales of the Walking Dead, which you can do variety of things with it. We kind of want a little bit more of a horror vibe. Instead, with the theme song that we get, it's kind of campy and maybe kind of adventurous and slightly mysterious. And that pretty much tells you the kind of show they want Tales to be. Not so much a horror or not so much a horror anthology a la Tales from the Crypt or Are You Afraid of the Dark, but more of like an adventure anthology. And I just vehemently disagree with that. And again, when you look at it from that perspective, the episode being kind of like an adventure, wacky comedic adventure makes sense. It makes sense why the episode is like that. All of the things about the episode make sense. But that's just not what I was looking for from this. And the good thing is, again, with this being an anthology, it can be completely different for the next episode. But when you can't overall handle the concept the way I wanted it to be handled, I don't know, man. I just don't know. And yeah, I've said already so much, and we haven't even gotten into the story itself, so I think that should speak to you how I feel about this one. I don't hate it. I just don't really give a shit about it. Which is kind of disappointing, because Tales of the Walking Dead was supposed to be what I was going to be focused on, like what I was going to be excited about. Because I'm not super excited about Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, based on the Season 7 finale, which was my least favorite episode of the season, I think. I'm not really too excited about Season 8 of Fear. The main show is ending, so we're not going to have that anymore. World Beyond is done, even though I enjoyed it. We have Isle of the Dead, which so far actually seems the most exciting thing in the Walking Dead universe, if you ask me, so that's fine. I'll enjoy that, hopefully. There's the Daryl spin-off, which we still have nothing about, so there's that. But I'm probably gonna enjoy it. And there's the Rishon spin-off that was announced recently, which I think I'm gonna enjoy, but I don't know at this point, man. I just don't know. I just fucking hate Gimple, man. He has his stupid fucking fingers all over this shit. He does not know how to run this universe as a whole. Okay? And all the people who actually made enjoyable content in the Walking Dead universe have been booted. Like, at least, like, for example, for the Daryl and Carol spin-off, I was kind of hopeful and expecting to at least enjoy it on the same level that I've been enjoying The Walking Dead, because Angela Kang was going to be running that spin-off. But she's not. It's gonna be a guy from a completely unrelated TV series going to be the showrunner for that. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. It can turn out to be good. It can turn out to not be. I don't know. But it makes me more uneasy and not knowing how to feel about it. And for the Rishon spin-off, I don't even know who's going to be the showrunner. Is it going to be fucking Gimple again? Yeah, that's making me feel better about it. And I know that Denai and Andrew are going to be executive producers on it. But still, there's only so much control they would have over the writers, you know? And yeah, I'm ranting about Gimple right now because the dialogue of this show is fucking garbage. And that's where I want to start it off, I guess, for specific things about this episode. The dialogue was fucking garbage. And again, that just makes me look to Fear the Walking Dead season 6 and 7, where with all its issues you can bring up, the dialogue at least was fucking good. Like, it's fucking engaging and enjoyable, and it makes sense. I literally cannot tell you a single sentence from this episode. Half the time, I either couldn't pay enough attention to understand what the fuck they were talking about, nor I gave a shit. Nor could I actually understand what kind of shit they were talking about, because there was so much random bullshit that just was nothing. It was just nothing. Nothing. No content whatsoever. If there's one thing that this does pretty good though, to be kind of balanced in my review, as I usually am, the visuals are pretty fucking good. And I don't know how to call it, like the post-apocalyptic atmosphere of like seeing the destruction and overturned cars and everything definitely gives off the vibe of where in the timeline this episode is supposed to be set. Because in the episode we learned that this episode was set in 402 days, which I wonder whether it's a reference to for the 400 days DLC in the Telltale games, which, by the way, funny that I bring that up, is a better execution of this goddamn concept as well. If you want to see Tales of the Walking Dead, play 400 days in on Telltale. You don't even have to have played the rest of the Telltale Walking Dead games to play that one. You might get some Easter eggs and shit, but you don't have to have played it. And that is also a better execution of that. And I really enjoyed it. You should definitely watch my playthrough of it when I replayed it on my channel. It's one of my favorite episodes of my playthrough of all of Tales of the Walking Dead that I did, honestly. And I'm really proud of the title for that Let's Play episode. But yeah, I'm wondering whether that's a reference to it, because it's the same kind of concept and it just makes sense. I personally choose to think that that is the case. Yeah. Honestly, I don't even if I wanted to kind of get into specific plots about and things about this episode, there's just no plot in this episode. Like, what's the plot? The main character, Joe, gets out of his bunker after his dog gets killed because he's fucking lonely and looks for a girl that he was talking online before the zombie apocalypse. Then he meets another character who also wants to go somewhere, and they kind of have a buddy cop relationship. Like, they kind of at first hate each other, but they kind of grow to like each other, but they don't even write it in a good way to where it feels like that's the kind of relationship that they're developing. Then when he arrives at the location where he was looking, he sees the person he was talking to online. She turns out to be a psycho. They kill her. The end. Like, what the fuck is even the plot? It's a dumb plot, first of all. It's not interesting. Second of all, the villain is campy as fuck. It didn't fucking feel like The Walking Dead. It wasn't done with the gravitas it deserved, with the tone it deserved. It just felt campy and over the top, and that's just not what it should be. It's not inherently a bad story, but the way they did it, the execution is terrible. It's just terrible. And that's why I'm really worried about episode 2 of this show, which is supposed to be an even crazier... Honestly, I don't even know how they're gonna fucking make it make sense in the Walking Dead universe, considering what the concept is. It feels more like a sci-fi episode than anything. But they've really gone for a dumb camp tone for this. And I don't understand why. Why is that the style you went for? Like I said, at least the visuals are good. The music was refreshing. I wouldn't say it was necessarily like mind-blowingly good or anything, but it was refreshing and noticeable, and I liked it. But yeah, there's just not much to talk about the plot. It's just a dumb plot of like, not even a, like, the thing is, the plot is not bad, but they don't even execute it like a fucking plot. There's just, oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting frustrated. I cannot even voice my opinions properly. This is the first time I've felt like this in a Walking Dead review, honestly. It's just so dumb. Because it so easily could be good. I could write it better. I genuinely think I can write it better. For fuck's sake. If I wanted to. I can write it better. This gives me vibe of Doctor Who Series 11, 12 and 13. If you're not a fan of Doctor Who, it wouldn't make any sense, but it's kind of just as bad, to the point where I can see how it doesn't work. I can see what doesn't work, and I feel like I can actually write it better. Based on the components that we have, I can actually write it better. Like, you know what easily makes the episode 10 times better? Making those locations that we have in the episodes, which they go out of their way to say that they are not terminus, just make them terminus, and that just improves the episode that much more. It gives it gravitas that it doesn't have. And I personally choose to believe that it's terminus because it's so fucking blatant that it is. It's so blatant. Like, they even have them go on the train tracks. Like, if you didn't want to have a connection to the rest of the Walking Dead universe, then why did you shoot in the same locations? Why? Literally fucking why? But yeah, you know how I said in the beginning how perspectives and expectations affect your opinion? I think they got into Tales of the Walking Dead and producing it from the wrong perspective, with the wrong wishes for it. Or at least the wishes of the fandom and the wishes of the fucking executives do not fucking align. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say in regards to that. It was just not fun. But not because the idea is inherently wrong, but because the writers fucking suck. And I'm really fucking hoping that it's just the writer of this episode in particular that is a fucking hack who should not be given the ability to write again. Because, again, bringing back that Twitter review which I read by, I think, Kirsten Acuna, she talked about how episode 4, which is the one focused on Alpha from The Walking Dead, is the best episode of the bunch. And that one is written by the showrunner, Channing Powell. I'm hoping that means that the showrunner just knows what he's doing and it's better. But she also said that this episode was the second best, and that really does not give me hope, because the only good things about this episode was the beginning and the end, literally. And I can't even tell you why. Like, the beginning, where you have Terry Crews with his dog, that was fine. Kind of enjoyable, but slow but enjoyable. And then the ending kind of feeling like, okay, let's get to some more fun adventure where the characters are going to develop. Kind of vibe. I don't know, I kind of like that. Like, it felt genuinely like one of those early World Beyond Season 1 episodes, where not much was happening, not much in terms of character development, but it ended up obviously developing into me loving those characters. But with this show, it's the wrong approach to have to how you write this episode, because you're not gonna have more episodes to do with these characters. It's one and done. So why didn't you handle it as a fucking movie? A mini movie, for crying out loud. It's just annoying, because I know that they can do it, but they just don't. And I think it's Chibnall. Not Chibnall, Gimple. I'm sorry, I've complained about fucking showrunners for Doctor Who for so long that it's just ingrained in my mind to complain about him. Fuck him as well, though. And I've defended Gimple, in the sense that I don't think he's a bad writer. But god fucking damn it, he always has this fucking connection to everything that fucking sucks in the Walking Dead universe. I don't know. At best, this is just a nothing episode. At worst, it's the worst letdown and the worst premiere for any show in the Walking Dead universe. World Beyond at least had like a kind of a comprehensive and cohesive idea about its first episode, but this was just, what the fuck? Like, it felt like the first fucking draft. And yet, my first drafts for my story in a zombie apocalypse, which I have on Wattpad, the link is in the description, my first drafts are fucking better. Because I don't really even draft the story again. I just write it however it flows, and then just try to make it kind of logical and clean up inconsistencies once I reread it a couple of times. And even my first drafts are fucking better than this shit. Like, the way I would do it is I would have, in the first 10 minutes, introduce our main characters, his characteristics, his setting, his backstory, and the reason for why he does what he does for the rest of the episode. And I guess we kind of get that, but it's not really obvious enough or impactful enough. And the death of his dog is just kind of not built up, and it's just thrown there. Like, why? Like, I don't know. I just feel like whoever's writing this just didn't give a shit. There was no passion behind this. I guess that's one way to explain it as well. And yeah, I can sit here and run for like 30 more minutes, but I don't want to do that. So we're just gonna go through my notes that I've written down for this episode. The first thing I've written is mixed about the theme song. We already kind of went over that. I understand where they're going from, where they're coming from, and when you look at it from their perspective, it makes sense why they went for the theme song that they went for, and I kind of am starting to be lukewarm about it, but I definitely don't love it. I feel like even Fear's theme in season 6 and 7 is better for this shit. Like, just make Fear the Walking Dead the anthology series and be done with it. Next thing I've written is, I wish they had more original episode names, which again, we already went through that, and I will be coming up with names for every single episode going forward. Even for the ones which might have like good names, because for example, the episode which is going to be featuring Alpha is called D, and I don't hate that episode name. I don't think having a character's name be the episode name in that case, when it's not like I mean, in that episode it's gonna be Alpha's backstory, so it kind of makes sense to have the character name be the name of the episode. But this is not about the character's backstory, so why couldn't you just... It's about the theme of loneliness and what it does to you, you know? That's kind of the theme of the episode. So why didn't you just call the episode Alone or something? Next thing I've written is, so cinematic. It looks so good. And it did. Next thing I've written is 400 days reference, which we already talked about. It's like said 402 days in the zombie apocalypse, which is around the time when Rick and Co are at the prison. It kind of has a similar vibe. I can definitely see it being set in that period. I think they've done a decent job with that, making it feel like it's set in that period. Although, there's one thing I want to complain about, and that is the walkers not looking like they are from that time period. Because look back to how the walkers looked in season 3 of The Walking Dead. Some were very decomposed, like what we have nowadays, but the walkers in Tales of the Walking Dead in this episode looked more like the walkers we have now in The Walking Dead than what they looked like back then. And that just brings the theme of laziness back out again, because I just don't think they give a shit enough. And yeah, that's exactly what I've written next, which is, why kill the dog? Also, walkers look too decomposed. They should not be that decomposed, based on what we've seen in The Walking Dead in the early days. Next thing I've written is, I like the music so far, and like I said earlier, I do like the music. It's at the very least refreshing, maybe not necessarily the best match for the Walking Dead universe, but it's refreshing and interesting so far. Next thing I've written is, again, why are the walkers so decomposed? It's around the time of the prison. Again, just repeating what I said. Next thing I've written is, so far, Fear did Tales concept better. And again, we already went through that as well, so I'm not gonna talk about that. The next thing I've written is the visuals are insane, and that is definitely the one thing this show does well. Although it makes sense because I think like Michael Straczmaris or whatever, I'm gonna put the correct name if I didn't say it correctly. He directed, I think, either half or most of the episodes of this show, so it makes sense why they look so good. He's a great director for The Walking Dead. The next thing I've written is those train tracks are not a fucking coincidence. That is Terminus before everything. And I personally choose to believe that. I personally choose to believe that that is fucking Terminus. Because I, anyway, didn't hear exactly where the locations and settings of this episode are, so I don't give a shit. To me, that was Terminus before everything. Because it makes sense, because when our group arrives at Terminus, it's like 18 months into the zombie apocalypse, which is like 500 and something days, maybe even 600 days into it. So there's plenty of time for them to, for the termites to fix it up and rebuild it. But it just looked so distinct for it to not be Terminus. And fuck the makers of this show for going out of their way to shoot at the same location. The same fucking train tracks as well. And not make it the same location. Another good thing that the show did well, though, is the inclusion of F-bombs. I'm pretty happy about that, and that's exactly what I've written here. And at this point, with the next sentence that I've written, you can pretty much see how I was feeling about the episodes. Because the next thing I've written is, what is this shit, man? Fire Gimpo now. Because at that point we were like 3/4 through the episode and there was nothing engaging about it. There was nothing that made it worth it that I checked out that episode. You know? The next thing I've written is, the score is unique, I guess. And it was, like I said, we already talked about it. The next thing I've written is, holy shit, this is bad. And that is in relation to that fight scene at the end with the campy villain who wants to kill our main character. Because of the way she acted so over the top, and the way she was killed, and the way she fucking fell to the ground. It was just so bad. It's just so bad. It's just so bad. I kind of agree with the people saying that this feels like the fucking CW. Now it feels in terms of its quality, because the last couple of seasons of The Flash have been fucking garbage. And that is the case for this as well. It definitely gave me those vibes. And the final thing that I wrote is, I get what they say about it feeling like a pilot to a spin-off. And that is for the final scene, which was actually kind of nice between the two characters. Because it felt like, okay, this was a bad episode, but I kind of like the characters, and I feel like they're gonna keep growing on me, because that's kind of how I felt in the first episode of World Beyond. Yeah, it was kind of shit, but I kind of like the characters, and I wanted to see how they're going to grow. And they did grow quite a lot over the course of the series, and I enjoyed them. To the point where at the end of World Beyond, I was actually really sad that I was never going to see these characters again. But I don't really get to experience that with these characters, because we only get one episode. And it just felt like the first episode of a spin-off. It just felt like it. It was, but not the first episode of this particular spin-off. Instead of the first episode of an Evie and Joe focused spin-off, which is not something we're going to be getting, and thank God we're not. But yeah, and that's pretty much all I've written about this. It was just kind of fucking bad. And right now I'm going to give you probably one of the lowest ratings I've given to a Walking Dead universe episode, which is like a 6 point, I don't know, 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10, I don't know, it's somewhere there. Let's go with a 6.2 out of 10. Jesus, it was so fucking bad. And the thing is, like I said, based on what was wrong with this episode, even if the concept of the second episode sounds cool, which I don't want to spoil, if you haven't seen it, because I haven't seen it myself, but I've seen the teaser for it. But based on the things that are wrong with this episode, and knowing the concept of the second one, even if it's good, it's just not gonna end up being a good episode. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. And yeah, what did you guys think about this episode? Comment your thoughts down below and let's have a discussion about it. And also, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 5 patrons on Patreon. Deadpool, August Dice, Little Uzi, Corby Dead, and King Mr. Mew. Thank you guys for your support, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you have decided to support me, and you have continued to support me for such a long time. Hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. Another thing that I also want to tell you guys before we end this video is something about me that some of you may or may not know, that will also explain why do I look and dress the way that I do. That being the fact that I am trans. In particular, I am somewhere between a non-binary person and a trans woman. I'm not quite sure at the moment and probably won't be sure until I talk to a professional who deals with trans people, but that is where the reason why I'm telling you all this comes. I need your help. Due to the fact that I live in a homophobic and transphobic Eastern European country with a family that won't really accept the fact that I'm trans if they found out, there is not really a feasible or easy way for me to transition here with minimal repercussions. So that's why I would really appreciate any kind or any amount of support that you guys can give me with this. That said, I don't want to guilt trip you or anything, so if you don't want to or you don't have the means to help out, that's fine, don't feel bad. I just want you to know that it would be greatly appreciated if you did help me out get out of this situation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and thank you for hearing me out. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account where you can pledge support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!